Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode 100. Wow, 560 of Constructive Criticism. I'm your host, CC, and I am joined by a special guest today. I'm joined by Robin. Is it Isabella?
Yeah, Isabella.
Isabella. Okay. I gotta ask before we even get started. How often does somebody bring up Twilight with your name?
I've gotten it a few times.
So not too much.
No. One of my friends sends me the GIF of I think it's Jacob saying like, "How's it been, Bella?" or whatever.
Oh, okay.
Every time he like greets me when it's been a while, but other than that, not that much.
Okay. Well, Robin, I'm excited to have you today. Well, I just want to give a special shout out. We were going to have two guests today. I want to give a shout out to Nick Hamilton, the captain of the CCMDG Patreon testing team. He wasn't able to make it today, but I'm actually going to use his notes as we do the show and kind of, have him here in spirit, if that's okay, Robin.
Oh, absolutely.
So people might be asking, where are Mason, and Abe? And they're both in Vegas. I think Mason might get there tomorrow. They both might get there tomorrow, but they weren't available to do the show today and asked me to get a guest. And I had a topic in mind that I was going to do a video on the Constructive Criticism YouTube channel. I was like, well, why don't I just get guests and make it a podcast? And during our podcast meeting, I told them about it, and they both had people that they recommended, and one of them was you, and I was very interested. So, Robin, why don't you tell the listener a little bit about yourself, and I guess let me say what the topic is first, actually. The topic is RC testing teams. So specifically testing teams in preparation for regional championships. Robin, who are you, and why did Mason recommend you?
Yeah, absolutely. Hey, everyone. First of all, thank you for having me on the show. Genuinely appreciate you and the others thinking of me. My name is Robin Isabella. I'm just a magic grinder. I've been grinding for a few years now. Today I'm representing Spellbomb. We're a U.S. regional testing team, although we do have a couple international members right now. We've been around for about a year now, forming right after RC Dallas. And we're super proud to have had multiple players qualifying for the Pro Tour. We even have two Worlds competitors. Matt Wright and Nathan Goldberg qualified through the mocks. And then across the last couple RC cycles, we had three RC top eights, Victor Hawkins, Lou Salerno, and Justin Brente. So we've had a decent run of it this year, and we're excited for what's to come.
I'm pretty sure I saw some CCMTG wristbands on those top eights recently. So shout out to anybody who did that. That was kind. I want to talk about testing teams because I think that there's like these local testing teams where like you get together, you play Magic, you talk about things, right? And then there's a dedicated group that are kind of around a single goal and identity for what they're trying to achieve and where they're trying to go and what they're trying to do. But as the guest, I kind of want to let you go first. Is what is a testing team for a regional championship?
Yeah, so my definition of a testing team is simply a group of people who are sharing knowledge, time, and resources to achieve some sort of goal. In the Magic sense, we are trying to qualify for RCs and PTs. However, you have folks at the top, Team Cosmos, Channel Fireball. They're trying to not only do well at PTs, they're trying to chain qualifications, but we're all here trying to share a common goal.
Yeah, one of the things that Nick put in here that I really liked is there was kind of like two different things. There's a group of people you get together to qualify for an RC or qualify for a PT, or test for an individual event. But then there's also kind of this group that gets together once you've done that. Maybe you qualified alone, or maybe you find a group of people to do what you said, right? Share that knowledge. And I think that as somebody that like coaches, wants to coach testing teams specifically and be a testing team coach, I hope that this episode shows that there's maybe a little more to it. Like you can do more than just be qualified together, or
Yeah.
So Should we talk about how one gets on a team and let you go first?
Yeah, absolutely. So getting on a team these days, I feel is pretty simple. Either A, you can form one with friends or like-minded individuals, or B, I know that you were just talking about a testing team like that you can coach. Mason, I know a couple years ago, I was in a testing team with him, as well as a couple others on Spellbomb who he was kind of coaching us through what the testing team process is like. Or I think he did it a couple times for a few different RCs. Um, so it's pretty simple. A lot of people are interested in having people join their team, and if you have enough friends, then you can just form one yourself.
Yeah, I think that's a good point. I think that a lot of people think that there's like some barrier to entry of being on a team,
Right, right.
and I think that, to be honest, like, you just need to find people that are like-minded and have the same goals as you, uh, to form one. I do think that maybe we'll get into this in the show, but I do think that like-minded and goals thing is really important in this. Um, but I think that once you've done that, you can find people that are like-minded that already have a team, or you can find a group of people in your local area. I have a testing team with local players that all of them have basically quit Magic. So the only time that they play Magic is Spencer's like, "Hey, I want to go to an RCQ. I want you guys to come. Let's go." And then 3 to 5 of us show up, and it's funny because, like, it's almost like a blocking team for Spencer sometimes. And they're like some of the best Magic players in Utah, so it's nice. But when it comes to regional championships, it's a little bit harder for me to find testing now, and part of that's being a dad and stuff. But I think that one of the things that I've realized through the Patreon testing and coaching teams is teams are formed from just building relationships,
Absolutely.
and finding people that align with what your goals are.
Yeah, and I know like earlier I talked about like, oh, Spellbomb, as proud as we are to have those accomplishments, not every team needs to be a big team with big accomplishments. I know I live in Atlanta. There are several teams in the South, Southeast, as we travel around the various states here to do RCQs that I see all the time. Shout out to the team prime time guys who are all over the South. You'd be surprised to see one of them um, not at an RCQ somewhere in the South. There's a North Carolina team, which I apologize, I forget the team name, but they have very nice and notable jerseys that are unforgettable. So yeah, like it can be a very local thing as well. It doesn't have to be like, oh, Spellbond is an international person on the team, but it could just be like your neighborhood, your region testing team, and that's totally cool.
I'm kind of curious, what does Spellbomb look for in a teammate?
Yeah, so we look for a couple things. One, we actively want people to contribute to pulling up teammates towards the goal of qualifying for a PT. Um, we don't want someone to join our Discord, join our team, and just kind of sit there, maybe type a few messages here or there. Be like when people are in voice calls, or let's say, we have a few shy members, but there are some people who are always playing. They like to share their notes after they play a challenge online or a couple leagues, or maybe even in paper testing. Additionally, we really enjoy when people are, yes, open-minded, but aren't necessarily afraid to challenge others' ideas. If we all sit in this vacuum chamber of ideas, we're never going to learn anything. We're never going to get better. So having disruptors on the team, people who are willing to say, "Hey, we've had a different experience about this deck, about this play pattern, about this format." We welcome those people. We're happy that those folks want to be on the team and help us out.
I didn't want to interrupt you there, but I want to go back because you said something that I think is really important in any given team, and that's pulling up. And this is
Mhm.
something that is maybe a little bit corporate speak, um, but I think is very important that we I'm gonna go outside of the Team CCMTG Patreon really quick and go to like the original Team CCMTG that had multiple silver pros and gold pros, and we had all of us qualify for the Pro Tour and stuff like that. And one of the things that we would do is we would invite people that we thought had potential to help lift them, to legitimately say, like, I believe in you, I trust I believe that you like our process, I believe that you will contribute, and let's invite you to be a part of this. And the number of times where somebody has said to me, I didn't feel like I had the accolades to be a part of what you guys were doing, I'm like, I don't care. That's not what I'm looking for. I'm looking for people that want to be a part of a process that helps them improve, and that also that one day they can contribute to and improve others and bring ideas to. And I think pulling somebody up is it's so important in a testing team to
Absolutely.
lift the others around you.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. I know personally, like it can be sometimes daunting. Sometimes you get a bit of imposter syndrome hopping in a Discord, and it's like, yeah, like these people are people who are worlds qualified, or they're in Vegas right now posting about things, and then there's to humble myself a bit, I still struggle to get like a qualification for each RC cycle, right? But I'm super grateful that I'm on a team where my teammates want to see me succeed, and they take time out of their testing processes to make sure that not only they want to improve, but they want the others on the team to improve as well.
And do you remember when this is like a side tangent, but I promise there's a point, Robin. Okay. Do you remember when Among Us came out?
Oh wow. Yeah, a little bit. It's been several years now.
Yeah. So I was in a Discord with some SEG grinders, and we would play Among Us together, and it was very fun. And one day, a friend of mine, Sam Black, jumps in the call with us, and I remember a total shift in gameplay as to how Among Us games played with Sam in the call versus other people. And I think that teams are often like this, where sometimes there's a very dominant voice.
Mm-hmm.
And you have to, one thing that I look for in a teammate is somebody that can, like you said, challenge the dominant voice. And I think that one of the things that is important there is you have to be able to challenge and not just question.
Absolutely.
Like, it's not, why do you think what you think? It's, hey, I don't think you're right. Here's why. Can we talk about it? And I don't know. I think that's hard. And the thing that Among Us taught me is honestly kind of how to have some of those conversations with people, because it's like, hey, you're. I mean, there's a sub game to that, but I do.
yeah, for sure.
But I do think that it was like, hey, here's why I think you're wrong, and you could have actual conversations in those Discords about that type of stuff.
Looks like I'm adding Among Us to the team bonding activities.
Oh my gosh, dude! I'm a product manager for software, and it is like so high on my list of games to do when you like have to have conversations at your job. It is because it lets you know how others communicate. Like you legitimately learn they're a dominant communicator in this situation. If they're shy in other situations, like how do I get them to dominantly communicate? Okay, what does Among Us offer that gets them to do that? So,
yeah, I mean, communication has been like I think that our team, despite everything we've been through thus far, is very much a team that's learning and growing together in the way we communicate, the way we talk about things. We're not special by any means. Like we don't have it figured out at all. We're learning and evolving every single day. We've been through many growing pains and still do. But one of the things that I feel that we've definitely proved on, like a stark difference from the beginning to now, is people communicate differently. We need to learn how to communicate with one another, how to challenge one another, how to challenge one another in a respectful way as well. There have definitely been, tense moments sometimes when people are really getting into decks, when you have one person who has 10,000 hours on is it prowess, and another person who has 10,000 hours on domain as an example, and just have these clashing opinions on, and it's like, how do we respectfully talk about this? How do we continue from not just saying I'm right, and that's something we've definitely grown with and learned and continue to improve on.
I love that. Add communication to that list. If you listen to the list of things that we said we look for in a teammate, communication is one of them.
Hmm.
I want to talk about roles that we find important. And you wrote a whole friggin' paragraph, Robin, so I'm going to let you go first.
Yeah, sure. I think the most important role is by far team captain. Um, Sometimes you just need someone to herd the cattle. Spellbomb would have absolutely just disbanded, fallen apart like several times over if our our brave captain Victor Hawkins wasn't such a good leader. He is very good at corralling people. He's good at managing emotions. He's good at talking to people. He's also not afraid to have hard conversations with people either. He's also someone who's looking like has a lot of ideas, wants to implement them, and wants to figure out how to always move forward. So I think no matter how big your team is, somebody who will be that leader and is a very humble leader is, or back in the day when I used to work in food service, we would have the term servant leadership, which I guess is like a corporate speak that has gone through a lot of different places now. But servant leadership is unironically a pretty nice thing to have for someone who wants to lead a testing team. Now, if your team does get large enough, it also does help to have maybe a couple other people, lieutenants per se, just a small group of people who will kind of lead by example, um, as well as help organize and facilitate team discussions, or like testing sessions or VOD review sessions when it's closer to RC season, or if you're a team that's just always on, who are just playing no matter what, just someone who's going to keep people going throughout that, and just to alleviate some of the help off the team captain. I wouldn't really have a role. I see our friend did include a separate role. I don't really have roles outside of that, other than I manage the Discord and social media, but I don't.
Hold on, I think that's important because
Yeah.
I think that, oh man, I have really strong opinions on this one.
Mhm.
Um, because I have always considered myself like a team leader,
Sure.
but never like a team captain. Like I didn't want to be. I think that like at least for a lot of people, when they think of like the C on the chest of someone, they think of like both a leader and a great player and like all this stuff. And to me, like I was good at specific things like getting the team together and getting the materials together and you know it, and I'm gonna go super boomer on y'all. Okay, so I mean like we would do testing sessions with I remember one of my favorite testing sessions we ever did was actually for PTQ seasons, like old school PTQ seasons. That we're getting ready for the PTQ season. I had proxied every 2 copies of every single major deck. I had life pads and notepads to write notes on because the Google Docs wasn't as advanced yet, and things like that to do paper testing. I had cards ready to write with Sharpie on, stuff like that. And we played 10 games of every single matchup. Just in 1.5 days. And it took forever. It took a long time. But one of the things that taught me is how to do more efficient testing. And so the next time we tested, we did something different. Eventually, we were changing cards on the fly. We were, hey, here's the new deck lists. And then and everybody could have their own opinions and stuff. And then there would be a post-testing day recap. One of my other favorite testing session, getting ready for Pro Tour, yeah, I think it was Pro Tour Ether Revolt. We had every single team member there. They were all dedicated. They all tested. I think there was in Hawaii, we had 3 of our 8 or 9 members going to the Pro Tour. And at the end, we were like, okay, let's build a baseline deck list to play test against at the end of this meeting. So you're on these decks, you're on these decks, you're on these decks. What do you believe? And then we used Cockatrice to build deck lists and send them out because that was just easier at the time. Today you probably would have Arena and Magic Online are way better at building and sending deck lists than they used to be. But at the end of it, it was like, hey, here are the top 10 decks that we're worried about, and here is a baseline for those decks that we can talk about online now. And one of those things about those sessions and those in-person sessions is I think that something that gets lost with testing teams is they're like, well, we're all online in different places, so we'll just do it when we can. And it's like, I think there needs to be a leader that leads, hey, here's when testing sessions are, here's how many people we need for each, and stuff like that. And I don't think that the team captain is that same person as the organizer. Or it can be. Like, I'm not saying it isn't Robin, but I think that it can be a different person.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And that's kind of the point I was trying to say as well. There gets a point where the team captain can only do so much, right?
Yeah.
Especially, I think I mentioned it in a later point, but we're all adults. We have limited time. We need to treat everyone's time with respect, and team captain can't really put the entire team all the work on his or her back, right?
Yeah.
So we have a small group of people who get together to kind of plan out how meetings go, testing sessions, et cetera, and I think Victor definitely would have gone crazy by now if he was expected to do that by himself. It's important to have those people to support the team for sure. The administration side of it, right?
Yeah, exactly. I love that. Yeah. The other thing that I would say is like there needs to be a data person. This can be multiple people, but I do believe that there needs to be somebody that is like, hey, here's the data from this weekend's challenge, especially now. Like, this was not something that we had when Team CMTG was going off, but you need this now. Like, you need someone that's like, hey, here's the data, here's what the data looked like this weekend, here's whatever. And there are people that have a unique skill set to do this that are very helpful. And I think that just having that readily available in your Discord or in your Slack channel or whatever you're using is really helpful. And then kind of the last role that I would say, sorry, did you want to say anything on that one?
No, I do think data is important. Currently, the way we do it, we essentially have data channels for various formats. And whenever the Frank Carson tweet with the data of the recent tournament is out, we usually throw it in there. But we don't have, ourselves, we don't have a dedicated data person. So that's definitely something we can look at. That's a great point.
And then kind of the last one that I would say a team needs that I don't think that people understand is a good role. It's just people willing to play the villain.
Mm-hmm.
Spencer, what does that mean? Well, you know what? Sometimes your entire team or most of your team wants to play a deck, or you're on 2 decks, and it's like, okay, who wants to play the villain decks? And these people don't just need to want to play the villain decks. They need to want to win with them. Like they need to want to understand them to help with, well, here's what I thought from this side. Here's what I'm thinking during this game and stuff like that. That should be everybody's role. But I do think that there's something special about somebody that's just willing to take that on.
Yeah, absolutely. We have a similar method. We don't necessarily have a quote unquote villain person. We usually, anybody who wants to play a matchup will ask like, hey, I'm trying to play prowess against Pixie. Can someone hop on Pixie? And someone will usually answer, or if during our dedicated testing times, someone will pick up the deck. But something we say about decks that people want to play at events, especially in more open metas. Unfortunately, the last few RC cycles, we've usually had a fairly clear best deck. But thinking back to, say, RCDC, I believe was Pioneer last fall, something I remember that struck out to me a lot is as we tested decks and ideas, we had a gauntlet of decks saying, "Hey, your deck, if you want to, talk about it more, if you want to, take up a good amount of people's times with this deck and the idea of this deck, it needs to frankly be able to beat or have a game plan into, these 3 or 4 decks, right?" Um, and that was kind of our villain was we'd have one person saying, "Okay, I want to try my cauldron." Say maybe I think Rakdos Cauldron won the event, but was not like a super known quantity, I believe, at the time. Um, and we would essentially say like, okay, how's it play against control? How's it play against? Geez, I can't even remember the the meta back then. Demons, I suppose. How does it play against? The mono red deck or the Rakdos Flame deck. How does it play against these decks? Run it through these people, then we can talk more about it.
I love that. Also, sorry for I'll edit out the pause, but I was writing down something. We actually did an episode back in the day where we did building your gauntlet or running your gauntlet. We did multiple episodes on that, and it's been literally multiple years, Robin. So I added it to the main topic discussion for the podcast because of what you just said. So thank you.
Yeah, honestly, we might have gotten it from like this podcast. Like, I forget who brought it up, but it could have been like
it was probably me. It was probably me because I believe in it a lot. But it's been a while. We should do it again. So. I literally was like, I have to write this down or I'll forget. I'm that type of person.
No, totally fair. Totally fair.
Well, let's talk about something outside of rules. Like, what are things that you've? I mean, is this? I gotta ask. Is this the first team you've worked with, or you've worked with other teams?
So I mentioned it briefly earlier, but Mason did for coaching clients. Yes. And that taught a lot about like, hey, here is how we talk about Magic. Here's how we organize this kind of thing. Mason did a great job of the former point of this is how you just discuss Magic the Gathering with other people. It's very easy to take for granted, especially for people who, let's say a lot of grinders who are interested in joining a team. You have probably played a ton, but have you talked about it a ton? Have you really got into the weeds with it with other people? Which kind of goes back into, hey, communication is really important point. But being able simply to talk about Magic is a skill that's really, really difficult to kind of perfect. Something that I need to work on still, but it's something that I'm sure y'all have seen, evolved over the years as you've helped other people and everything. So that was the first team that I worked with, and it was after doing that we had a couple of Mason's coaching students. We got together with other Atlanta folks, and then we created Spellbomb and have been testing for. It was after RC Dallas of last year. So
that's awesome. Well, that leads me into my question: is what have you? I mean, you've kind of answered some of it, but what have you liked? Other than that, like you kind of answered the question before I asked it, but I am curious: is there other things that you've liked or didn't like
about
just with teams? Like what do you think?
Sure.
Like you mentioned communication, and you mentioned, you kind of mentioned, forming the team and stuff. But like what about being on a team, or what are things about the team that you did like?
Yeah, absolutely. So being with Spellbomb specifically, I'm very thankful that it started definitely with a core group of friends. We've definitely expanded to several regions of the US, of key players joining us. I think one of the things I've loved a lot is because we spend so much time testing, we've definitely formed a small community. That's something that might get a little overlooked when you are doing serious testing. But at the end of the day, you're spending a lot of time with people, and these people, end up being like a small little social group for you. And I think that's really wonderful. I've genuinely made wonderful friends being on Spellbomb. I made friends being on Mason's testing team, and that's something that is kind of a payoff of playing Magic in general for me. As much as I love the competition, the part where I get to meet new people, explore new places, understand new ideas, form ways of communication. That's one of my favorite parts of the game for sure.
Every single one of my groomsmen was a testing partner of mine. Like
I believe,
literally,
yeah.
literally all of them. So, um, I also think that all of them were co-hosts of this podcast. Uh, so
That, that's a fun group of people then.
yeah, it was really great. I think just kind of I want to read something that Nick said. Um, just culture. I think that
Yeah.
one of the things that happens when you form and go through testing teams, I've been doing this podcast for over a decade, and doing competitive Magic for longer than I think often. And I think one of the things that I often learn is that it becomes a culture of wanting others to succeed and cheering others on. Magic is like kind of isolating in a lot of ways, right?
Definitely.
I remember, I think it was after the regional championship in San Diego, the DreamHack. I think,
Yeah, the standard, I believe.
yeah, I talked about this either on the podcast or in a video. I think it was on the podcast where I said, "Oh my gosh, I'm so sick of Magic players feeling that they can't talk when they're O2." Because one, you don't want to bring your friends down, and then two, you like you become self-isolated. It's like, I
Mhm.
don't want to bring my friends down because like I'm not having the best time, but also like they don't want to talk to you because they don't want to bring themselves down. It's like, oh my gosh, can we not do that to ourselves? Like, it's like this very weird mental space that I've thought about a lot. I actually think the Jerry T podcast talked about this too, shortly after I did. And it is this thing where testing teams fix that. Like, you go, okay, what did you learn? What did you play against? Can I put it on my list? Like, can we improve with this thing? And when you have this culture of collaboration and improvement, it
Mhm.
changes everything. It makes it a team event, regardless of who's doing well, when they're doing well, and how they're doing well. And I think that that's the thing that I've liked about teams. Um, and then the other thing that I've liked about teams is um, people carving their way. I think that it's really easy. I talked about the whole thing with Among Us, for example. But I think carving your spot and like, here's what I'm good at, here's what I can offer, and finding your niche in a group of people is really valuable to any individual. And I hope people know that people see when you put in the effort. Like, if you are in a testing team of locals and you're putting the effort into a single deck, people know. Like, they are like, oh, if I have a question about this deck, I can ask this person. Oh, if I have a question about standard, I can ask this person.
Oh,
Oh,
absolutely.
if I have a question about uh you know a matchup, I can ask this person. And that they it you may never be thanked the entire time you're doing it. I hope you are, for what it's worth. But you might not be. But I promise you they noticed. And I promise you that they're utilizing you. And I hope that you utilize them the same way. And that you do give thanks. And that you do put in the same effort that they're putting in. But I think that collaboration and competition thing, um, I think it helps. It helps. Sorry.
Oh, absolutely. It's it's funny. One of our members, he is a therapist, and something that we discussed was just how, like, sometimes folks take it for granted that this is can be really serious competition. Like, of course, when you first start playing Magic, it might just be like, oh, I'm doing this fun thing on tabletop with my friends or siblings. But then you start to take the competitive side seriously. There's like real sports science conversations to be had about competitions, about putting a lot of effort into practicing for an RC or even RCQs on the local level. And then you lose and you're knocked out of qualification, and it's like, what now? It can be really isolating when you don't have teammates to help lift you up. I mean, I can take RC Charlotte, I believe, earlier this year. I had to LCQ in, but I was on Underworld Breach because of course I was, and I LCQ'd in. I felt really great. I put in a lot of work on the deck, and the next day, I just bombed out. I didn't play well, didn't do well, and there was a split second of just like doom and gloom. But then I looked around, and it's like, okay, well, here's 20 other people I get to root for now, And that one, RC Charlotte, we had two people top eight. It was one of like that Sunday was one of the happiest days of my life. I did really poorly in some side event, but I was like, hey, like look, these are my friends. These are people I test with. It's all worth it when you hug someone who just qualified for the pro tour, just qualified for top eight. It's incredible, and having that team is very grounding. There are other kind of issues that arise, not necessarily issues, but challenges, hurdles you have to get through of like, hey, now you have to work with other people, and that can be difficult. But the pros vastly, vastly, vastly outweigh those cons.
We were at GP Vegas, and I remember we were at my friend's house watching the GP, and I get a text from Danny Cathro, former Pro Magic player, and he's like, "Hey, like, I'm playing my win in for top eight," and being in Vegas on a Sunday for the Legacy GP on the double GP weekends that Vegas used to do, we ordered an Uber, a little drunk, and we're like, "Hey, I'm coming to watch your match. Like, I'm coming." And I just remember he's like, "Hey, bring me a shirt. Bring me a shirt to wear on coverage as I play for this and play for the top eight." And you talk about those hugs, and I remember Autumn Chet winning the Pro Tour and just getting tackled. And I think that when you build a real team bond where it becomes, like we both said earlier, right? Where it's like, yeah, I'm not just rooting for me to do well. I'm not just trying to get something else from these other people. I'm trying to pull people up and lift each other. It makes those moments so special.
Absolutely. It's so much. It's such a freeing feeling when you can lose a Magic tournament and not be just like super distraught over it. Like, still have stakes in it, still be happy to be there throughout the day.
Okay, I'm about to throw our team captain of the Patreon testing team under the bus because I did not read these notes beforehand. And our next question is: are things that you think you should avoid? And I so vehemently disagree with his first point.
I did notice that one too, but
I'm gonna go, nope, I disagree. But I want to give a shout out to Nick that he's a no-nonsense guy trying to just improve at Magic and play Magic. But he says disorganized fun time, aka testing, less testing or discussion, and just doing something else just because. I think that just because is wrong, Nick. And I say this as the coach of the team. I think the way that you get the moments that we're describing is by building a relationship. In your relationship, it can be built on Magic, but it doesn't have to be. And I think that when you care deeply about another person, it means that when they ask for help testing a matchup, you're more likely to put something aside to say yes. And thus, those moments where it's like, I remember for episode 500, I demanded that we did a game night as a podcast. It's actually really hard for Mason, myself, and Abe to get together. It just is. Like, we're in 3 different time zones.
Mm-hmm.
I got 2 kids. Mason coaches day and night. Abe is a bank manager. Like, it is actually hard for us to get together. And I was like, no, we are literally going to spend an hour or 2 playing games together. Like, I demand it. I let them pick the game. I was like, no, but we are doing it. And you think it has no value, right? It's like the pizza party thing at corporations, but that's actually not what it's for. It's not about fun time. It's about interactions, and it's about letting your guard down. When you're playing Magic together, there is expectations on you. When you're playing Among Us, when you're playing Valorant, when you're, whatever you're doing, your guard comes down. You're doing something else. You are free to do more things. So I wanted to mention that this is in the show notes because that was something Nick was going to talk about, and I don't agree. So
Yeah, it's really. I have a lot of thoughts about this point in general. For what it's worth, I agree with everything you had to say. There are a lot of variables at play, though. There's expectations for a team. Some people are going to want and thrive off of just being this laser focused team, right? Like we're, in a sense, just coworkers trying to qualify for, the pro tour, qualify for the RC, and that's going to work for some people. And for those people, that's wonderful. One of the things I pride myself on with Spellbomb is we have essentially 2 pillars of Spellbomb. It's the competitive side of things and the community side of things. I've spent a lot of time hanging out with those people. We have nights where we're up at midnight, 1 a.m., watching, the rehearsal, watching Nathan For You, something like that. We will play games together. People feel comfortable just sharing them playing Dark Souls or something, and that's a good time. I do agree, though, that sometimes that community aspect, the disorganized time, can be uh, overwhelming. Might not be the right word, but can kind of get in the way of the competitive stuff. I know I frankly have sometimes have been too casual with things, but I do think there should be a space for people to be able to do stuff. And this kind of goes back into the sports science thing about Magic testing teams, in the sense that teams are, teams. Like, I'm not sure how many people out there have played youth sports, but think about when you were playing basketball, football, hockey, whatever, with people in high school, maybe local teams in college, even before that, when people were younger. Would you consider those people more coworkers, or would you consider them more friends? There's some fine line between friend and coworker that these teammates are, and I think it's important to find that for each group. I like to lean more on the friend side. That's always how I've treated teammates before in sports growing up. But it is reasonable for there to be no nonsense people. You just have to find, like you mentioned earlier, those like-minded people to approach a team with.
yeah, and I'm not saying Nick might be one of those people. I'm I personally think that this is not something that I would avoid. But I like what you said about we're all adults. Like if our team is I have this many hours,
Yeah.
I don't want to go play Among Us with everybody.
Right.
I disagree. I think you should. I think that from the sports psychology thing that you mentioned, it's actually super valuable. I think that one time we did mini golf, one time we did laser tag. I often had parties at my house with our testing team where we could the number of games of switching off on Mario or playing Mario Party or stuff like that. It offers something special. that you don't get, that I don't think that all of us qualify for the Pro Tour and are able to talk to each other without.
Definitely. No, I agree with that for what it's worth. Team, any activity you can do with your team that's not Magic is going to improve your relationship with them and improve your chemistry as you test, as
Yeah.
you do everything.
And for what it's worth, it doesn't have to be everybody.
Mm-hmm,
Like
mm-hmm.
like for example, because of this podcast, they're gonna know this before, but I'm gonna, in the CCMTG Patreon testing team, I'm gonna be like, hey, I'm gonna do game night. Where there's gonna be a game night, and if somebody wants to sign up for a week, this night to like host a game or do whatever or be in charge of the game, like let's do it. But like this actually, I think that this team needs it, and I'm gonna probably be the catalyst for it. So I do like his other one though. So back to the point of like things that you should avoid. I hate cross training. I think it's so pointless. If somebody was like, let's all play Hearthstone in preparation for this Pro Tour, I'd be like, that's the dumbest idea I've ever heard in my entire life. Why would we do that? And that's like a direct comparison for what it's worth. But like if somebody's like, all right, here's the things that, I mean, I'm a Smash player. I don't know if you know this, Robin. You've been listening for a while.
I did not.
You didn't know?
Yeah, I did not know that.
Oh yeah. Just literally, if I turned on my Switch right now, this TV behind me, Smash would be the first thing that came up. This is literally my Smash TV. I've learned a lot about Magic and things that have helped me improve my process in Magic through Smash. I could not imagine making every single person on my testing team learn the basics of Smash so that we could have a conversation about Smash to teach me Magic. That sounds insane.
Yeah, listen, as much as I would love to have a day where we all played Risk of Rain 2 with each other, Slay the Spire, I don't think that would be the most
to be fair,
productive use.
I'll do it. Robin, if you want to play Slay, I've never played before, but I'm a huge Battlegrounds person. So like, if you want to play Slay the Spire, I've never played, but everyone tells me to play it.
It's so much. I've even played the board game with friends. Like Slay the Spire, the Spire's blast.
Anyway, keep going.
Sure. Yeah. But no, I slightly lost my train of thought at talking about Slay the Spire.
You're like, no, let's do it. Let's play Slay.
Well, let me pull it up right now. Hold on.
No, I think that it is like almost the antithesis of what we just talked about, where we're now doing something for fun that applies to Magic because somebody applied Magic to the other thing. And the entire point of the other thing is that we're building relationships and not playing Magic.
Yeah.
They're just two different things.
No, they definitely are. Cross-training versus just like enjoying your time with people. It's a fine line, but you're right. One builds relationships, and the other, while there are practical uses, I'm sure, and some people might get stuff out of it, does feel you'd be hard pressed to get some folks that I know to be like, yeah, let's play Hearthstone to prepare for RC. What's the next one? Houston. So.
What about you? What are things that you think people should avoid?
Yeah. So early on in Spellbomb, we loved to have meetings where people just said things, and what I mean by that is, I remember we once had a meeting that was very long, a couple hours, where we talked about, it was like a month out before the RC. It might have been for RCDC, or it could have been even for the Showcase Atlanta, one of the two. But we had a meeting where people who were quote unquote experts on decks kind of gave a brief summary about their deck, and all in all, that meeting went very long. Those kinds of meetings went very long, and they're very much email meetings. There were people who were either out of touch with the metagame and just like listening in before starting serious RC prep for that cycle, who kind of just sat there for a couple hours listening to people talk about decks. And while there was some use out of it, we had a lot of people in those meetings and spent a lot of time doing stuff that could have frankly just been in an email, and stuff like that. It is important to find what works for your team. And I'm sure like that kind of thing can be good for your team. But for our team, it certainly didn't. We had a lot of upset people about those kinds of meetings. And so the meetings we have now are much more hands-on, much more, hey, we're going to test these matchups. We're going to review this film, and that's stuff that people actually enjoy doing. People don't want to feel like they're in a lecture.
I have a solution for this meeting that is outside of what you said that we will talk about off the podcast.
Okay, perfect.
That I did for the CCGP this last RC. I think that weekly team meetings are cool, but they should not be required.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I think that you should do your best to attend. Like if
Yes.
if somebody's gonna put it down like, hey, like what's the best time for everybody, and you give a time and they take you into consideration, you should do your best to do that. But I do think that like weekly team meetings should be required. I think that there are important meetings.
Definitely.
I think that one of the things that's really cool about like Discord and stuff is you could have a day where you're all in the Discord, and you could all say like, hey, let's take a day off of work, or let's take a weekend day where we don't go to RCQs or whatever, and like let's just be in the Discord. And then, hey, you build a Discord full of 5 rooms. You're like, okay, we're gonna play this matchup on this client. We're gonna play this matchup on this client, whatever. And people can just jump between rooms and talk and interact, right? Oh my gosh, I'm giving away so much of my idea for coaching. And then you have a meeting at the end of the day. If you dedicate X number of hours of like, hey, this is our day. Like everybody put this on your calendar. Like let's do this. But that's a day that you plan, right? That's not the same thing as like a conversation meeting. That's an interactive meeting. And I think that what you said of like it needing to be interactive and it needing to be something that you've participated in is really important.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. I mean, there just got to a point where sometimes it can be, uh, like people just didn't pay attention at some point. Even when I remember I helped present a deck during those meetings, and I found myself when I wasn't presenting just like kind of trailing off. It's the moral of the story. Even this type of meeting aside is just like, hey, you do need to find some kind of efficiency in your team activities because people's time is a resource, right? And it's a finite amount. So we need to be able to respect that and figure out what works for everyone, or at least most people.
So this is not on the show notes because we're at the end of the show notes, Robin.
Oh, exciting.
But is there anything you want to say before we kind of go to the end?
I mean, I think that I mentioned it a little bit earlier, but being part of a team has been very rewarding. That just feeling of belonging and support is something we can get into the human condition, yeah, real philosophical, but it's a very rewarding feeling. It's also kept me very invested in the game, even during a time right now where I'm not as invested. I'm still cheering on my teammates. They motivate me to want to, figure out the out of Magic stuff so I can get right back into the in Magic stuff as quickly as possible. It's truly rewarding, and I'd highly recommend that even if you just have a group of friends at home, right? You should get with them, test with them. If you can do it online, do that. If you meet up somewhere, do that. Start going to RCQs together, RCs, if there's spotlights in town, energies are up north. There's so many ways to play Magic now. after the pandemic, just get together with them and be part of the community.
I love it. I love it. Where can people find you?
Yeah, so I'm on Twitter at Robin Isabella X. But the Spellbomb Twitter, which tries to retweet any content that Spellbomb members do, is at Spellbomb_MTG on Twitter. You can find us there. Did want to have a couple shout outs to people this weekend. We have 4 people participating Pro Tour Final Fantasy. We have, as I mentioned earlier, Victor Hawkins. He's working with Team Cosmos. Amir Momin. He's working with FlexSlot Diamond. We have Matt Wright, who is testing with Channel Fireball, as well as his partner, Luna Eason, who isn't qualified for this Pro Tour, but she was qualified for the last one. And I'm pretty sure she's qualified for the next one. They just haven't lined up yet, but she's there at the house this week. And then finally, Lou Salerno, who is testing with Sanctum. Additionally, just want to shout out a few Spellbomb members who are really important. Jacob Pablo, Nathan Goldberg, Marceline, and last but certainly not least, May French. Shout out to everyone there. Yeah, I love everyone on the team. It's wonderful.
I love that. That was great. I just want to do Nick's really quick. You can find Nick at Nick or the famous Nick. Sorry, I read and talked at the same time. You can find Nick at the famous Nick H, both on Blue Sky and Twitter. And Nick just wanted to shout out Jake, aka Historis, Ward, aka Ward Zero, Josh, aka Some Dude, Dave C, aka Virtue 333, Grunch, and our own PhD, Dr. Jacob, who got his PhD in between RCs. And he just want to say, like, hit up himself or me to join the Discord, and you know, get ready for Vegas or Houston. I personally just want to say you can find me at H on Blue Sky. You can find me at He's a Game on Twitter. You can email me at coaching for coaching at spencerhowland@gmail.com. Just my name, pretty easy. And I am looking to coach teams. Like, that is the thing I'm passionate about. I believe that I have a unique skill set in this after years of doing it, and I'm happy to contribute in any way that I can. Additionally, you can follow Mason at Mason E. Clark and Abe at More Nothings, and reach out to both of them for coaching. Just put coaching in the description. And yeah, thank you so much, Robin. I really appreciate you jumping on. It means the world to me. And honestly, this was a longer episode than I expected, because I just think we had so much fun.
Yeah, no, it was a blast. I appreciate you having me on. I enjoy the conversation from start to finish, and we got into some really fun points there.
Well, I'm gonna end the recording right now. Sometimes the conversation is so fun with your guest that you just continued afterwards, even though you got a whole nother podcast to record, or at least another part of it. Thank you so much to Robin for coming on. Thank you so much to Nick for contributing to the show this week. Don't forget to check out our sponsors at Mana Traders. You can use the link in the show notes, whether you are on YouTube or Spotify or wherever you are. Just use that link. That's our link. And then also use the code CCMTG4 right now as the code to help us out. It means the world. It is the best way to play Magic Online. Literally yesterday, Matt Kling was like, hey, when are we going to do Clash again? So you'll see him try to Clash again, powered by Mana Traders. That is what powers this podcast, and we really appreciate that. Don't forget to check out Untapped.gg. They are the #1 deck tracker on Arena. I used them literally today. They really do help out when you're trying to do your best on Magic the Gathering Arena. Understand what your outs are, check things out. And if you have a premium account, you get replays, which is something that we talk about on this podcast all the time. Then finally, don't forget to check out the swag store. I actually need a desk mat for downstairs, so I'm going to be buying a constructive criticism desk mat from the swag store. Link in the show notes. and deliver it right to my house for my desk downstairs. I might get one for here. I don't know if it'll fit on this desk, but I'm definitely getting one, and I'll let you guys know how it goes. Finally, the point of this podcast is always improving. We're always trying to get better each and every week. And I have one that I'm going to do solo this week. You know, Abe and Mason are getting ready for the Pro Tour. It's just me. And I have one that I want to share. And that is writing down mistakes. I, since junior high, have not been a great note taker. It's my weakness in life. It's my weakness in Magic. It's my weakness in my career. I'm not good at taking notes. And I do think that there's some value in notes. I mean, there's scientific proof that taking notes and writing something down increases its lock to your memory. And this week specifically, I started writing down mistakes, whether I noticed them via watching replays on Untapped.gg or if I did them in game, like I just noticed. And just as like an example, there was one time I noticed today while I was playing, because I haven't watched replays today, and then one time in replays where I was on the draw and I played a different one drop than Heartfire Hero after drawing Manifold Mouse. And you might be like, oh, like whatever, like guess what, I did win both those games. It was so much worse. And like I probably win faster. More opportunities available for me. And I think that both trying to do this is making me think more. But I hope that the other thing that it's doing, as I'm not a great note taker, is teaching me this skill that I'm not good at. And that's part of always improving. Is like, it would be really easy to say, like, guess what? That lizard, just as good. You still won the game. That Manifold Mouse might have never mattered, blah, 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 blah. But I think that the thing is that I saw the opportunity. I saw the difference in line. I could look at the damage output and things like that and just see the difference. And now it's now committed to memory for me on the draw to not just autoplay like I do on Arena, which I complain about a ton on this podcast. And I'm looking for ways to improve this very gross habit of mine. And I hope that this is one of the ways that I get to do that. So that's my improving moment. I used a specific example, but it's not the only one that I have written down to kind of help out. And then Patreon. You can go to patreon.com/ccmg, become a patron of the show. No new patrons this week, but if you want to and you enjoy this week's episode, head on over to patreon.com/ccmtg. You can become a patron member of the Discord, where at $5 or more, you get access to the Patreon question, you get access to the Discord, all kinds of things like that. So check that out, patreon.com/ccmtg. Let's go to the Patreon question. This week's question comes from Jacob. Jacob says, if you had to be caught in a fictional world, but you got to choose, which would you choose and why? I should have thought about this a little bit more before I didn't record. I don't know. Are there like mono good worlds? Like just like everything's perfect type of worlds? Because to me, some things that I think about is like, I have the internet now, I have technology. I don't know that I'd want to like lose that. I don't want to go to like a post-apocalyptic world like something like Ready Player One. I don't know. Like I think that something with magic would be cool to me. Do I get to have magic? I don't know. I think that there are plenty of worlds that I'd be pretty content in. But I think that I would want some other caveats to that. I think for me, the world that I would be the most interested in exploring is probably that of, I don't know. I just said that I would want the internet, and then my first thought became of like Legend of Korra Avatar stuff. with like vendors and things like that. That one's tough. I'm gonna give a really basic answer that's also a little weird. I'd like post Empire, post First Order Star Wars. Like, yeah, like if the galaxy is fixed, like we have everything we need, the galaxy's in order. That sounds pretty cool. I get to travel anywhere I want. There's a lot more stability post-war, things like that. I think that would be my answer. The other answer might be like High Republic era of Star Wars, though. Now that I'm thinking about it, like when you can literally just, I'm not gonna get too nerdy, but where the Jedi are huge and there's a lot of peace and stuff. I don't know. That sounds good too. That is going to do it for the show. Thank you so much to our guests who helped out today, especially Robin, who jumped on the episode, but especially Nick too. Not especially Nick too. Also Nick too. Everybody's appreciated. Shout out to Robin for coming on the episode, and shout out to Nick for helping out. Really appreciate that. Don't forget to check out the Patreon Discord. There's also a public Discord link for the He's a Game Media Discord. I have said that for a long time, and the link disappeared. But that link is available. So if you want to talk to other people who listen to this podcast or our nerd podcast on He's a Game Media, check that out. And then thank you so much to the YouTube comments. They mean the most every week, every day. We see them all the time. And don't forget to, talk to us if there is something that we can do better on the show, or if there's something you loved with the show, let us know in the comments. And give Robin some love. That was really awesome for her to come on. You can follow the podcast at CCMTG or CCMTG Pod, basically everywhere. Give a like, a review, or a sub, and we'll see you all next week with a brand new episode of Constructed Criticism.
Magic, 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 magic.